Go on Windows. It's not that hard. You can do it. No, I'm replacing you. Just hang in there.
Was all the things. I even restarted my computer today.
Yeah,
Still crap all over. Feeling better. You're back in the shop.
I'm feeling better, yeah. Oh, there you go. Recording. Yeah. Feeling 95%.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's quick.
100%, but this morning I'm like, yeah, not quite.
Yeah, but fatigue.
Yeah, but energy level's good. Thankfully.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Awesome. Glad to see it. Glad we're not like in a tent. Not that that wasn't fun, but just for your sake.
It's good to check in. What's happening at your end this week?
We did some job shop work. Got some parts to go out. I've got a pile of whiteboard prototypes, or not prototypes, actually production run that need to go to the finisher, which is nice. Those have been in process since like months.
Nice. Now, is that what you're countersinking in the steel?
Yeah, those were drawer fronts for my house. I made some custom like side tables for our bedroom, and I was always intending them to be steel fronts, and slightly outside of my normal range, so I never actually got those finished like a year ago, and so they've been plywood, like crappy plywood. They're kind of a surprise for my wife. The whiteboards are also steel.
Have you got a monitor, like a CCTV of the workshop up there, or like a screen?
Yes. Yeah, up here. Yeah.
You're always looking out that direction when you're considering what's happening in the workshop. I'm like, oh, maybe you can see something. Yeah,
there's
cool.
A couple of views, and the printer's also going right now, and I can see a little bit of that. So it's definitely helps me visualize what is actually happening out there. What are we working on?
Gazing out the digital window.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's
nice.
Pretty useful. Yeah, how about you?
Just glad to be back, really.
Yeah.
I had a couple of days working at home at the start of the week because I couldn't quite clear my cough. And technically I couldn't go back until I was clear of that. And working from home was fine, but, pretty hectic with the two little ones running around.
Just go out to the tent again.
So came back in yesterday, and it's just really nice to be back in here and in amongst it and getting on with things. Yeah, but at the same time, get that perspective of having been off for a week and then coming back in, and I was shocked this week to discover how much time I spend in meetings.
Oh.
It's like, wow, this is my life now. Like,
I'm going to quit this job.
Part of it was catching up on stuff I'd missed.
Yeah.
But a lot of it was just, stuff that's in my default diary that's just meeting after meeting or call or a Zoom meeting with a client. It's all valuable stuff, but yeah, I guess having been away and then come back, I was like, oh, wow, I spend a lot of my week doing this now. So that was a good little perspective shift to become aware of that. But no, going pretty well. We're I suppose we're running into the end. We have a mid-year financial year.
Oh.
When does your financial year end?
It just somehow ended up with the calendar year. I don't know how that happened.
Okay.
Forever ago.
What can you do, either or, over there?
I don't really know. I know we had a lawyer help us start the LLC, and somehow that worked out. It's just always been calendar year, which is nice.
Yeah, okay. Right. Yeah, our financial year starts in July, 1st of July. So we're trying to hit a certain revenue target with about six weeks to go. So chasing the custom work pretty hard, and also we'll do like a bit of a marketing push, I think, over the next 6 weeks to try and get the web orders flowing again. But it's so weird, like we chatted about the other day when we were talking marketing. It's out of the blue this week. So I had a chat with Will from Concrete Digital, who's our guy that helps us with marketing. And then I don't think he changed anything at his end yet. We just started making plans for the next, 6 weeks. And then yesterday, just out of nowhere, midweek, like we usually don't sell anything on the website midweek. It's always sort of weekends. After hours or, weekends, people at home.
Interesting.
And then yesterday, Wednesday, we had I haven't checked, but possibly a record day of sales just out of nowhere. It's like, look. Really weird.
Whoa. Something just drastically changed on your microphone.
Spiked. Yeah, I saw that spike.
It sounded like I was in your throat. Sounds good now.
Yeah, cool.
Wow, That's fantastic. Do you see, I think Shopify has decent data on that, but you see like attribution, like you have any idea what it was?
I find the attribution data really patchy.
Yeah, it is.
Like almost all the sales that I looked at that came through yesterday were just like, first session direct from, it was either a direct URL, it was just
Yep.
a direct visit from search. Very rarely do we see an attribution to marketing efforts in Shopify.
It's very frustrating when you like have all this analytics set up and then you can't tell
I
like the
know.
most specific thing. It's like this should be always the case. I should always know, like unless somebody's using even if they're using a VPN, you'd still see that they clicked on a Google like link, like
Mm,
it shows where they come in. Anyway, yeah. I always find that
yeah.
interesting.
I don't know if this is just me, but I find myself when I get served an ad that piques my interest in Instagram or something, I'll often close Instagram and then go off to just open a new tab in Chrome
Yeah.
and go direct search to their website. I'm definitely adverse to following link clicks through ads.
Yeah.
I wonder whether that's more common
Well,
than I think it is.
I don't know. I guess I know exactly what you mean, and I think when you were describing it, I was thinking it's like kind of the best practice of not clicking on a phishing link.
Yeah.
Like go open it
Yeah,
yourself. Don't click on the link.
exactly. But yeah, no, good to be back. Plenty of stuff going on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
things continued to go fine without you.
Yeah, seemingly. That's something I've been considering too this week is what did I not do last week that just worked without me that I can now sort of, having proven that, what can I delegate or
Mm-hmm.
just get off my plate?
Yeah.
So that's been an interesting exercise. The other main thing that I think has come to light is just how finite my R&D time is, product development time.
Yeah.
I either need to make some hard decisions about clearly saying no or starting to sort of shut down doing product development for other people
Mm-hmm.
and just really focus in on doing product development for us. Been thinking about that a lot this week.
Yeah. Well, you must be seeing. You've mentioned this a couple times. You must either want to do it for yourself. I think we both have that feeling, or you're seeing
Yeah.
that like the rise in sales or something. Like you're seeing a trend where it's becoming a better deal for you to do it for yourself than other people. For you, for the business.
Basically, yeah. Yeah. I think it's just really hard to quote R&D for other people
Mm-hmm.
and then make any money on it. Whilst it can be a really rich conversation and relationship with a client, it's very hard to charge. I find it hard to charge enough for it legitimately.
Maybe.
But I was interested in terms of product development, like what your process is in terms of idea generation. Like, are you someone that's led by a problem, or do you just find yourself coming up with random ideas? Like, what's your process there?
Oh boy, it's been all over the place. I can very easily say though right now that the best, let's say, products or the things that have worked the best, that have sold, that have had the greatest reception are all solving problems like genuinely. And it's usually like I think most of them have come from I don't know, my ideas, I guess, or my starting point, and they're usually something in my life that I don't like and want to improve. And when that
Yeah.
genuinely works and it's not super, super niche, it turns into something that I don't know, like the laptop stand. Actually, my friend came up with that, but like this calendar, I just never could visually like process the serpentine back and forth of a calendar. When I'd look at it, I'd be like, which week is, and then if you jump to the next line, and it just was hard for me to see. So I made a calendar that was top to bottom 1 through 31, and I printed it on my friend, had a plotter, and yeah,
So it's just a linear
yeah.
drop. Yeah, that's cool.
I never intended to sell it really, and then that's kind of I've slowly trained my brain from now. It's like, well, could I make a thing that would be a product that would also be this problem-solving thing? Because obviously, it's turned into a business. We've tried the opposite way over the years here, and generated by we have all these great tools. How do we make a product that, for example, the mill could make? And that never works. It's like almost
know, right?
perverse in its way that it creates a product. and honestly never has. It just never. You get so far in it, and you're like, well, what is this? What am I trying to solve in the end here? This isn't even a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That makes sense. I've definitely had that thought before of like trying to justify new tools or different equipment and trying to come at it from that angle. But it's almost impossible to come back from that direction, I reckon. Like I find it much more powerful to have the limitation of what we've already got, whether it's the tooling or the machine
Yep.
that's available, and then trying to solve a problem
Yep.
with what's available, and then getting creative with the means to do that.
Yeah. I've definitely tried to train myself to think over the years, and there's a lesson they try to teach us early on in school that constraints are usually for the better in the end. Like if you get a blank check and somebody says you can use any tool you want, you can buy any tool, it can be any size, it's probably gonna suck in the end. It's just not gonna be good. There's probably examples of that. I can't think, off the top of my head, but I guess an example would be a McMansion, right? Those like crappy, it's probably mostly American. There's websites dedicated to this where people have all the money and nobody will tell them no. And so they have 17 styles of window on the front of their house because they thought it looked cool.
Yeah.
Constraints make for better things. I definitely know what you mean there.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've found on product development, I don't think I've had a better personal feeling about developing products than in the last like year and a half working on this knack wall thing, because whatever it is about it, the like constraint being that it is this kind of notched wall of a grid means that it's, whatever we make that goes with it has to work on that system. These holes, you kind of start somewhere and it has to work with that. And almost every time we've made it in different places all around the shop just to test it, to kind of evolve different aspects of it. And it's like I mentioned before, the kind of morale around creating a thing to solve a problem for your own space that could be something you sell is fantastic. And I love every time. I think there's like one thing that we've really been challenged by, which is making just a simple peg or like a hook.
Yep.
They all looked every time it's either looks like a thumb or like a male sex member. Every time. Cannot get away from it. And I guess maybe this is the good transition to that we made this little thing I showed on Instagram. It's just a peg and it goes with the T clamp. And there's actually one holding up my bag. I put my bag on the floor until yesterday. It's got its own problems, but yeah, this was pretty satisfying to finally come up with something that wasn't. It still has a thumb aesthetic, I think, in the end, but
it does. Yeah, it looks pretty heavy duty.
Yeah, 2 inches.
Can you hang
thick.
off it?
Probably. Yeah, it's probably, especially with the aluminum backer. But yeah, it's simple for now. These are just prototypes. Cool. They need a little bit more polish to them, but
that's cool. Yeah. I'm interested looking at your wall behind you, and like we've made pegboards, but I suppose more broadly, when you're designing a system, how quickly did you commit to like the spacing of the holes? And do you have doubts as you move forward about whether that was the right decision and backwards compatibility and stuff like that? I find that's a really challenging area when you're developing more than just a singular product. You're trying to develop a world or a system of parts that all talk to each other.
I got really lucky, or maybe it was some kind of like years of design intuition, but I doubt that. I think I just got lucky. I was working on it at like Christmas at my in-laws 2 years ago. I always get kind of, I won't say bored necessarily, but my mind wanders and everybody was off doing something. And I was like, oh, we should get back to that grid wall thing we were working on at one point. And I came up with kind of the spacing that just seemed like it worked. It's 200 millimeters apart.
Metric.
Yeah. I went with all metric, which is kind of crazy. And the answer to why was that if I make the panel sizes, they fit in set on a standard sheet of plywood here. Like I can get 3 of these panels from one sheet of plywood and cut all the sides and all the spacings. Like we don't have to get into fractions at all, which is fantastic. And it actually just perfect reason why metric is definitely better. I have never disputed that. It's just unfortunate here. So I think I got lucky in that sense. And what's great about how this works is we actually have a 100 millimeter spacing on this wall. That was the first one we did. And it
Yep.
was just a little too much in the end. And this is kind of a nice happy medium for now. But you could
Yeah,
totally,
cool.
we couldn't go wider spacing and have things still work on it. But this way we could go down and then have more adjustability.
Yeah, nice. I guess 200 is quite big to start with, but it's a very neat number, so you can halve that and still have things work.
Yeah. Like one of the, we thought about the next version that we haven't sold this one yet, but it would be to make smaller panels that have finer spacing yet.
Yeah,
So like little organizer board kind of things. But
that clip onto the bigger board.
yeah, you totally could. Yeah, we've made one of those. Yeah. Yeah, like a
Yeah,
nested,
thought of.
endless stacking board of boards.
Subboard. Yep. Yeah, that's cool. I find with our kit parts shelving system, I committed to dimensions too early. And now, like, or whatever, 2 years later, I've got doubts or just, like there's things I really want to change, but at the same time, I want to maintain backwards compatibility for all the customers who already have one. So it's like, do I add, another 6 components to the family to ensure that everyone can do everything? Or do I just like email all of those customers who already have one and say like, hey,
this is it.
We'll continue to service you. Like
Yeah.
there's the select group of you. Thanks for being, early. Thanks for getting in early, but we're going to change all the dimensions from here on in. So yeah, I'm a bit torn about that. And I was chatting to a friend about it who was like, just, the sooner you do that, the better, like for everybody.
Even as you're describing that, I think you brought that up a bit ago, and it's easier for me to sit here and say, well, yeah, just do it, because assuming you're going to keep making it longer than you have, the big question would be, is it somehow going to open up more opportunity, more sales in the end? Then unfortunately you got to like squash the old thing. And as long as you could come back to it, I suppose. But the real downside to that is, in a lean sense, why would you keep 2 product lines, right? Like your inventory, you're wasting it. You're hoping those people hopefully buy something else from you when they maybe already they've got what they need.
Yeah, I think most of those people will probably just have the thing, and that's as much as they'll ever have. So yeah, I just need to bite the bullet, but then it's committing to the new numbers.
Yeah.
And then saying, cool, this is the new system that's going to work for the next 2 years, and then I'll change my mind again and decide that it's not quite right.
The version of that, I think I probably brought this up, but people listening to this are like, you guys have already talked about this. But the version of that for me was the thickness of these dang panels.
Particularly when it's pre-laminated and you can't affect the thickness. We're finding that with the new hoop pine plywood we're using, it's way less dimensionally stable in its thickness than birch.
Yeah.
We're finding like 0.6 millimeter variation across within the sheet, not just across a pack, but within one sheet. So what's that in freedom units?
0.024 inches.
So yeah, that's been a whole new challenge for us, because we can put stuff through the wide belt sander and tolerance things, but when the variation's, coming up to almost a millimeter, it's like then you start breaking into glue lines and just, messing things up. It's been tricky. But then when you've got your backing boards, which are like they're HPL, both sides, right?
There's like a backer sheet, but it's the same thickness.
Yeah. So you're basically stuck with that thickness stock. And then you got to hope that the next, in a year's time, the stock is still the same thickness, right?
Exactly. That we can still get it.
Oh, dude.
Yeah, honestly, you're making me feel a little bit better in this whole conversation of why it's not on sale yet, because all of these things have been concerns the last year and a half of like, killed it the first time. I think it was the beginning of 2021. We worked on it for about 40 days or something, and we were just killing it. Like, so many great ideas. I think we built this side of the office right away. We were so excited. And then the world just had I don't remember. At that time, it was like the first time vendors were starting to talk about plywood not being a thing or too expensive. And I was like, this seems like a bad idea. Like, we're early in this process and this product that we need may just disappear. So then we waited and kind of came up again. And now it's kind of back in that same place after we spent months and months working on it and had to adjust some of those tolerances, thankfully, before we ever sold any. So there's different incarnations around this office that the shop that, don't work anymore on different versions. That's always the
Yeah.
nightmare, is that I've always thought, people would buy a kit and then probably buy something else over time, but not like a whole new set of things.
Mm.
And that needs to work.
Yeah. I would probably reverse it back on you and say, no. Yes. From a design point of view, yes, it needs to work.
Yes.
But 90% of the people who buy a NAC wall kit may never buy more accessories ever again. Like they're going to put it up on their wall in their home office or whatever, and that might be it.
Yeah.
And I think it's more important to get it out there and into real people's hands.
Yes.
For user feedback and just to sell stuff. I think it's more important to do that than trying to get at the next, 10% of perfection.
I definitely agree. It's just always I continue to find weird excuses, I think, for why either it's material or waiting on something, and just I'm trying to turn it into products on Shopify and a marketing website.
Nice.
That process has been slower than it should be too. So I definitely agree. I'm curious now, for Kit Parts, have you come out with things and have people continue to buy add-on pieces, or is that really a thing for you?
Yeah, I see a little bit of activity with people buying extra bits and pieces, an extra shelf or a few extra dowels. But in the scheme of things, it's a very small volume for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's an opportunity there for like selling to those people, like marketing to those people, like through email or something. Like, hey, did you know you can add on a shelf?
If we had a decent, if we had a decent like email user base, then totally. But we only started collecting emails in the last 6 months or something, so it's a tiny list. And we've done a few like EDM email outs using the Shopify platform. And it's like you can see the stats, and it's like 3 people opened this email. Like,
what's EDM?
Good point. Something direct mail, electronic direct mail. I don't know.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Marketing speak.
I don't either.
So can I go on PDX CNC and buy a NAC kit yet? No.
No, I'm working on the marketing page and hopefully have it available here shortly. But yeah, everything's figured out to this point. There was always something we were waiting on. We had to change materials, and it's been way too slow. But yeah, I just need to get it done.
Just make stuff. That's what they say.
That's what they say.
Oh, wow. I just tried to find your CNC calendar, and I just went down an Etsy rabbit hole and found all sorts of awful things.
My vertical calendar?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a weird small world of printed calendars that still exist. There's a group of people that still want them.
Frightening.
Let's see if this works. This is the thing I've been working on. You see that tiny little printer screen?
Is that a live view of your printer?
Yeah.
Get out.
Yeah. It streams via a Raspberry Pi. And it's actually just like a PC webcam hooked into USB.
Too good.
It's pretty cool.
Love it.
It's making a time lapse at the moment. But so this is I don't have good words for it. It's the funnel that converts from 5-inch duct down to kind of the top of our spindle. So
this is why I want a printer.
It's pretty great. This is from this morning at like 9 o'clock. It's going pretty well. It's PETG, so it should be pretty durable, and it should improve like 150% or so volume of what we've been using now with our Shop Saver. Here's a little time lapse. It's only a bit of it.
Oh, nice. What's that software?
This is called Octoprint. I think I mentioned it before when I was bitching about Fanuc being so crappy. Because this is free open source software that you can run your printer with, and I can control it from my phone.
And do time lapse in it.
Time lapse. I can,
Hilarious.
I've got temperature graphs. I've got. It has a plugin like repository, so most of these things are plugins, like the Octolapse, and most of these.
I suppose it speaks to the users, right? Like how many people have a 3D printer versus how many people have a Fanuc mill? Like
yeah, for sure. Yeah, there's a lot to that, but it's just I think about it. It's like, can I get Octoprint to control my mill?
That's awesome.
Yeah, pretty stoked about that. So this is hopefully going to turn into a thing we sell because I mentioned it before, our machine, the Shop Sabers, just don't have very good stock dust collection. And
Yeah.
part of the problem is the size of the port, and then also like just the way it's designed. I did a video about upgrading our ATC rack, and part of that plan was always to do this dust collection portion, and it's designed to be a direct swap for what comes on your Shop Saver. And then
Nice.
you could potentially also add improvements if you say have the style of little pedestals that we designed to kind of improve it and focus it more. I haven't designed that part yet, but this was the first step, and I've been working on it for like probably off and on for a year, and
Yeah, wow. Okay.
be fun.
That's cool. It's pretty much exactly the part that we need to make
Oh,
for
really?
for Trinity, because Trinity's dust collection is terrible. Like it goes from our 150 mil 6-inch duct,
Mm-hmm.
the workshop system
Yep.
that comes down, and then it goes through this adapter onto the machine spindle head, and it goes down to like a really small, maybe 50 mil hose, 2-inch, and then through this convoluted like cast aluminium dust hood, and it's terrible.
50
really
mil? Holy crap.
Yeah, way too small. And it's got this weird pneumatic dust foot. It's like a pressure foot, so you can flick a switch on the control and
Oh, yeah.
it pushes
That's
down
kinda
on the
cool.
material lightly, which is kind of cool, but it also just rides around and scratches everything because it's not picking up all the dust. So it's just like grinding the chips into the surface of the film face plywood. So John runs that up out of the way almost all the time.
Yeah.
So we desperately need to rebuild that foot and make something that actually gets the dust out. But yeah, 3D printing on the pencil sharp bed has very agricultural dust collection, and still doesn't have proper guards on it and things like that. I've definitely thought about being able to print beautiful little scoopy forms for dust collection and guarding and things like that. That'd be awesome.
It's definitely, I've done a bit of the kind of organic modeling, funneling, lofting. I tried Fusion and Rhino, and trying to improve the kind of proximity to the spindle and the dust, creation by moving all that closer has let me down so many rabbit holes of like crazy offshoot wraparound things, and like,
Cool.
and in the end, it's like, sure, you could maybe print that, but is it going to break? Does it even work? And so I've kind of pulled it back to this place where it's somewhat organic, but I don't yet know if it's going to withstand the forces of like the hose attached to it and
Yeah.
stuff like that. So we'll find out. I think we should
That's
be able
cool.
to have it up and running this week, I hope, which I'm pretty
Awesome.
excited about because it's always been very challenged.
You mentioned Rhino then. What's your go-to? Well, it comes back to idea generation as well. Like, how quickly do you end up in CAD? Where's your sketch environment? Like, do you draw and then go to CAD, or what's your process there?
I've always drawn poorly, but I definitely refined some of that in school. And I find it most useful if we're just trying to chat in the shop, right, with each other about something. And then I find it to be productive. I usually get a lot out of it if I make myself do it. But I'd say I've transitioned from Rhino being my first tool to probably more Fusion. I think just as I've gotten better at it, there's still the speed of which you can open Rhino and get it created is unmatched for me anyway, for so much experience. But how about you?
Same. I've definitely converted a lot of my processes to Fusion over the last few years, but I'm still a bit of a Rhino diehard when it comes to just like quickly getting ideas out. It's definitely like I have a Rhino file open pretty much all the time that's just called Sandpit, and it's just like thousands of projects that I've either quoted or ideas that I'm fiddling with, and it's just a dumping ground for stuff.
Yeah.
And it's just such a vast environment to sketch in and work things out. I unfortunately, same as you, like I definitely find value when I pick up pen and paper. Yeah. Absolutely. I need to force myself to do that more often, but I jump straight into Rhino because I find pen and paper, I almost immediately get frustrated by the lack of scale.
Yeah.
I'm like, but how do those two elements like actually interact with each other? I need to draw this at true scale to get a sense of that. I'm in Rhino in 2 seconds and the paper's pushed away. But yeah, like I spent 2 hours on a Zoom call yesterday detailing a project that we're working on with a client who I work very closely with, like collaboratively with it on the design, and basically just shared my Rhino screen for 2 hours, and we like problem solved all the little details of this project. And it's just, I find it a really fantastic environment for that stage.
Yeah, it's so much different for those that haven't used it, I suppose. I always describe Rhino like being able to play with Play-Doh straight away. Like you're
Mm.
immediately playing with Play-Doh, whereas in Fusion you kind of got to make the formula to make Play-Doh and then make Play-Doh, and it's in a one-way direction. Then you got to go backwards. Sure, you can direct model, but it's a
Yeah.
lot more convoluted. And there's a lot of parallel processes that can happen, I think, in it. You can start modeling and then just leave it and go over here and start modeling and leave it,
Mm.
and those could be separate iterations that are just 100 inches apart or something. And then stuff like being able to do like a 2-curve sweep, right? Sweep 2, where you can sweep off of 2 things with just one profile. Whereas in Fusion, you can only do a sweep off of one thing and you have to have a closed profile. You can't just have an open profile. I was
Yeah.
playing with
Yeah.
that literally today in Rhino. I was working on a customer project and it's just so fast to iterate. I don't know. I wish there was some hybrid of the two. It'd be pretty great.
I reckon Rhino you can time travel, and Fusion is like linear time.
Yeah, for sure.
So, like, one of my favorite tricks in Rhino is to sort of be working through a problem or a project and go, oh, I've accidentally deleted something, or that was better like 100 steps ago.
Mm.
And I select everything I'm working on and I cut it like with clipboard. And then I undo like 100 steps back to where I was,
Oh
and then
my.
paste in from the future. And then I've got like both versions of
Oh.
time.
Hmm.
I do that heaps. I haven't thought about it from a sort of time travel perspective, but like I think kind of works. You can just jump around and it's so flexible.
I did find, kind of on that same topic, a bit ago, I was playing around the web view of like the team hub for Fusion, like you get that weird browser thing. You can compare versions in there and like see actual things that changed in each body or component compared to different versions. I mean, it's like tedious to go through. You got to like select each thing and it loads. But I found that, if you really need it, it's there. On Rhino, though, I was curious, have you ever used the history mode?
The what?
They have a history. It's like history modeling, and I've read enough to know it's something like a timeline editing, but I've never really gotten it to work in my like quick efforts of trying to try it out. But
cool, I'll check that out.
When you drag away like a dimension off of something and it says you broke history. You ever do that? Maybe
in Rhino.
Yeah.
No.
Oh,
never seen that.
Version 5?
Yeah.
Maybe it's a 7. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know.
I'll join you on the 7 soon when my MacBook finally arrives.
Is that a couple weeks yet?
Still a few weeks away, I think. Yeah.
Sweet. Are you on the process to buy a 3D printer? I think I saw you chatting with somebody else about that.
Yeah, look, I think I've had a Prusa in my shopping cart for a year probably. Just kind of thinking about it and never quite being able to justify it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does seem like a lot. I think it was easy to transition from having this really janky reality thing that never worked. And it had printed enough things where I was like, oh, I see the value of this. And it was like $250. And then it was like, I just want this to work now. We're wasting so much time. And then it was easier to spend the money on the $1,000 version.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's a funny thing to admit, but I no longer feel free to spend company money on whatever I want.
Sure.
Which feels really weird.
Mm-hmm.
Having sort of grown the company very like impulsively, I'm just like, oh, I want one of those. What's this tool like? Go to the tool shop and spend thousands of dollars on Festool things. To now where I like a $1,000 printer, I feel like I need to justify it to my team basically to say I want to spend company money on this because I think it could benefit us in this way.
Yeah.
So I think that's why I haven't pulled the pin on a printer, basically.
Sure.
Or a laser. I'd love a laser engraver. No, because fiber's not very good at wood, right?
No. I thought you had a laser.
No.
Maybe somebody else. Interesting.
I'd love to be able to engrave parts, basically. I'd put our logo or client logos on components.
Would it be a standalone machine?
Don't know. I was looking at whether we could add a laser head to one of our existing machines.
They're usually pretty low wattage, I think. That's been a little bit tempting to me because it's just one process then and you're not having to reset up, make new files. Like it's already there, assuming you don't have to flip the part over or something to label it.
Yeah. I think the most eligible candidate is the pencil sharpener because the Maxo control has an output for pulse width modulation or whatever the laser needs.
That'd be
So
really
I
cool.
think I could potentially just add a laser head to the pencil sharpener as the sixth tool, just like engrave the side of the dowel or the top of the bolt head, or I'm not sure. But
you can't actually turn the dowel; it's locked into either
no,
jaw.
it's correct. Yeah.
This is interesting. I could so totally see that one. The thing we've been talking about, we've more and more needed to brand things as we've been ramping up more products, and we just use the engraving tool on the router, and it's okay. It's not great.
Yeah.
Usually a little bit rough, and Ricky has to blow them out, and his finish gets stuck in it. So we've been talking about just making a small brass brand, like you heat up, and then we can just stamp it on things. So I've had that as a project to do for a long time in the mill, and just haven't got it set up.
Yeah, I've milled a few branding irons on our router.
Yeah.
They work really well. I get frustrated with the electric soldering iron not being hot enough or taking so long to heat up. It's not just like a quick, I just want to brand on that. Boom. You got to wait like 15 minutes for it to get really hot.
Oh, wow. Okay. Huh.
But I had a little project which I never finished. I bought an induction heater coil thing, and I had this plan to convert an old drill press into a branding station. So there would be like a brass brand mounted in the drill press chuck and with an induction coil just mounted around it. So it would just be like pump, pump, pump. But I bought some parts on eBay and I don't think they were powerful enough. Like I could heat up like mild steel really hot, but then the brass components that I was making the branding iron out of didn't work as well with the heat source, and I wasn't generating enough energy. Anyway, that kind of.
Well, I know the next step you need to make.
Sitting in a box.
The next step to that is obviously you've got to have some switch that throws a flame.
Yeah, a foot pedal.
At least for a video, I mean.
That'd be nice. Have you ever used those diamond engraving tools on the router? That they're not designed to spin. They're like a little spring-loaded pressure foot, and you can do like really fine, like scratched engravings with them.
Haven't, no.
We've messed around with them a little bit.
For like metals usually?
Probably, yeah, metals and plastics. I think they're designed for. We've tried to use them on film face plywood just to like put fine text or logos into them because I've got one client part that we make which has the client logo on it. It's quite a complex little logo, and it's like, 5 minutes of machine time or something to come in with a 0.2 engraving tool and slowly pick it all away, and then you got to get the depth absolutely perfect, otherwise it looks crap. And
sounds like you need a laser.
I know, right? We tried those diamond tools because we thought it would take out the thickness variation and not have to worry so much about whether the plywood was 12.2 or 12.4 and how that affected the engrave, but didn't get amazing results, but haven't done heaps with it.
I wanted something, I think I saw this at a show, or I just imagined it. Basically, how like a sewing machine has a pressure foot?
Yeah.
Kind of like you talking about this in a couple different scenarios. I want a roundover or chamfer tool that basically floats on a pressure foot.
I'm pretty sure they exist. Yeah,
I think they do. Like some kind of crazy expensive attachment.
I've seen them on like big 5-axis machines where you've got heaps of room for tooling. The big aggregates and saws and like your tools go from being like ISO 30 to like this thing as big as your head. I feel like I've seen sort of round over pressure foot sort of things in that application maybe. Maybe at a show as well.
Yeah, I don't remember where I saw that, but we've talked about that. We didn't do roundovers on our machine for so long, especially smaller ones, because like you're saying, the material is never flat. So we're not gonna face the whole sheet to do a roundover like what you would do otherwise. Yeah,
we've never really done it. We did some big roundovers on a job the other week, which was 32 millimeter. What's that, 1.5 inches or something?
Yeah.
That was fun. Last time we made these tables, we did the huge roundover on the inverted table router just like by hand. And, I had an extra coffee and sort of, I was like shaking by the time I'd finished just from the adrenaline because it was kind of sketchy. Anyway, this time we did it all on the CNC and the result was so much better.
Ooh,
it was
nice.
big roundover bit, no chatter.
Yeah.
John just made a fixture that the parts kind of were seated into and did a great job.
Yeah. I find that to be the hardest part with the iMac bases up there, like chamfered on top, which just goes well. It's super easy. But when you flip it over into a fixture, we do a roundover, and
Mm,
it's machined right, but even the fixtures and just the way everything aligns, it's hard to get it just right so that you don't notch in on accident, and you kind of just have to do them light and then sand them in. But
yeah.
that's kind of always tainted my view of how to properly do it. And like, I think this little guy was the first time I actually got. It's just such a different accuracy and ability to hold things that I've never visualized that in my head of like, oh, I could do a
Mm.
backside round over on a second off. That'll totally work.
That's cool. I guess you're controlling every surface in that part though, right?
Yeah.
It's not like the factory surface of a plywood sheet.
Yeah, for sure. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you ever measured the surface of your router bed? Like the flatness?
Mm-mm.
I had a guy that worked here that did that when we first moved, and I was pretty astounded. I think one spot, there was a low spot. It was like 20 thou low.
This is after you've surfaced your MDF or just measuring the aluminium table?
Whatever yeah, so we have like a phenolic bed, the table, and yours would be aluminum, I guess, then. But yeah, measuring with like a indicator.
Yeah.
Driving back and forth, and he measured it and put it into a little, like, I think it was an Excel table, and then he colorized it. So I still have that. I don't know if it's still accurate, but it's pretty shocking.
Cool.
I like to show that to people that start here and they're like, "What do you mean it's not flat?" And I'm like, "Nah, fortunately not."
Is that relevant though once you've decked your sacrificial?
I don't think so. I mean, if it's moving
Yeah.
around, I mean, it matters in the sense of if you're putting something like we've more and more, like you commented on that video of our fixture plate, right? Sits
Yeah.
on top of the table or anything you stack up yourself that's not faced. And
Oh, so that doesn't sit on top of the sacrificial sheet. You take the sacrificial off to do that.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Okay, then that matters, right?
Yeah.
We can't take our sacrificial off. We glue it.
We used to do that. We did that a couple times, but we switch it
Yeah.
so often. Part of the way
Okay.
especially when we were doing more job shop work, we had just kind of trained ourselves into, what's the best way to hold apart. And often it's not the vacuum sacrificial table because of the surface area or, any of those things. And so we've over time tried to create different little fixturing setups, and they work pretty good most of the time.
That's cool. Nice to have a listener question for the first time.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I was curious what your answer to that was. The
App.
Shopify Airtable thing.
We use an app called AirPower, which was just in the Shopify app store, not the Airtable apps. Seems good. Initially, we just used it because we only switched to Shopify a couple of years ago. And initially, we just used it to set Shopify up and kind of populate all the bulk data.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
It's great for syncing, hundreds of meta fields or whatever they're called, stuff like that.
Do you still use it that way? Do you still sync product data?
Yeah, we do now. We'd set up the website and then we kind of turned AirPower off because we're like, cool, it's done. But then when more recently we turned it back on because we started using it more actively to sync regularly between Airtable and Shopify. You can basically control your entire Shopify store just from Airtable. Every product, every price,
inventory,
description. Yep.
Interesting.
Yeah, it gets scary when you're like hitting the sync button. You're like, did I check all the right things?
Oh man,
you can potentially like destroy your Shopify store.
Yeah.
If you don't sync it correctly. But yeah, no, it's really powerful.
That's interesting. I wasn't even thinking about it in that regard. I think the question maybe it was just about Shopify and Airtable, but I was thinking of it as, I guess I thought you were syncing orders out of it or something, out of Shopify. Isn't that part of your ERP that you like sync your orders to Airtable?
Yeah. Orders from Shopify come into Airtable automatically. I honestly don't know which channel they're coming through anymore, whether it's through AirPower or through Zapier. It's one of the two.
And then you keep track of them going through kind of work production until they ship in Airtable?
Yeah. Yeah, all the production workflow goes through Airtable. We've still got some weird double ups, like we still go back into Shopify right at the end to like fulfill the order and notify the customer through Shopify. Because we haven't set up the connection to that level where we can, like, ideally it'd be nice to be able to say project complete in Airtable and that sends the Shopify email of like your thing's been shipped or whatever, but we're kind of doing it in both places at the moment when it comes to the final fulfillment. But yeah, most of that, all the production happens in Airtable.
All of our job shop work probably the thing I have the most developed in Airtable is from an inquiry form through all the way to like, all the tasks, the projects for the project are there. And then you can click a checkbox and it'll send the customer like the final pickup email with the invoice and
Yep.
stuff. It's
Nice.
all automated. That all happened bit by bit over time. It was like, oh, I think I could add this part, like it was never like all at once. And now I'm a little daunted. I want to try to put Shopify orders through because I've always used ShipStation, which combines
yeah.
orders and you can do kind of kitting and stuff and make templates for shipping. I don't know. All of our products to date have always been kind of on the shelf ready. So
Nice.
I've never
Yeah.
had to like produce them or kit them in certain ways. I'm thinking at this point that the whole Shopify to Airtable thing would be not needed, but maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, we're pretty much print on demand with almost all our products now. There's a few things that we keep on the shelf, but even the parts that we do keep on the shelf, it's typically like, cool, what's the order? Pull some of that, put it together into the customer's order.
Yeah.
There's almost nothing which is just like, oh, one of those, thank you, boom, like in a box. Like everything either gets assembled or made in some way, so it all goes through the production workflow in Airtable where we can tag people to be responsible for it or allocate it.
Do you think I guess my sense is that here in America, like there's such a high priority for things to be ready to ship and like free shipping and stuff like that.
Amazon culture.
Yeah, is it the same for you all?
Anecdotally, I reckon that's less of a thing here. Amazon or that sort of warehouse style shipping is definitely a thing here, but it's less, I think, culturally pervasive.
Yeah.
And so, we've very rarely had any sort of issue with having 1 to 2 weeks on a product shipping out. Like it's, as long as that's clearly communicated up front and expectations are set, and that works quite well for us. Obviously, we're always trying to do better shorten those lead times because I feel like it's more attractive to a potential customer if they can see 1 to 2 days instead of 1 to 2 weeks. But I feel like it's less of an expectation here. I don't know.
I resisted the free shipping thing for a long time, and the world had started to shift to that. And it just had never made sense. I was like, I'm thinking about it again right now, how absurd it is to like try to compete with these billion-dollar companies. Basically, it's like we're trying to compare, and that's what the consumer basically has built up in their mind is, oh, what do you mean it's not free shipping? And there's so much data to prove that. This is where I finally changed my process on that was, for here anyway, there's so many data points of how much lower conversion rates are because people get to the end of checkout and all of a sudden there's a price added and they're like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
Especially for Oregonians where we live, like there's no sales tax. So
right.
A price is a price. And that's kind of been a weird thing in America too, where sales tax is really complicated, where it's by state and different states have been adding it on their own.
Ooh.
It's not synced, and literally the small business owner has to deal with it for each state. It is a nightmare.
Frightening.
It's
crazy.
I don't know where I was going with all that other than that it's tough and
just conversion, like shipping. Yeah. Again, this is a funny thing to talk about, semi-publicly, but for years, I resisted doing anything like free shipping. Like I just hated the idea of concealing anything in a product price. I was just like, the product price should be the product price. And then the customer should clearly see like how much shipping is going to be. 12 months ago or something, I was finally talked into changing that a little bit, starting to build in some packing, handling time into the product price, building in like the fees that the carriers would charge us on everything they shipped, and just putting some of that stuff in. And then, so the customer still sees gets a live shipping quote from the carrier when they check out. That fee is much smaller than what they used to see.
Oh, I see. You're like subsidizing it, kind of?
Subsidizing it within the product price. So the product price now, everything costs the same, but it's just shifted slightly.
Yeah, same as what I did.
And it made a massive difference to conversion.
Did it really?
Like, it freaked me out. I was just like, wow, this is really a thing.
Oh, man. It's kind of sad, but yeah,
I know.
It definitely works.
It definitely works. And even with my awareness of what we're doing and how effective that is, I still, as a consumer, if I'm on a website and I see free shipping, I'm like, bling, it's like little candies that go off in my mind. I'm like, oh yeah, great.
Yep.
It's hilarious.
Well, so it's interesting you bring that up. Those little like I don't remember if you do it or not, but in the last week I had this click for me. There's basically a very small checklist that you look for when you're going to somebody's website, right? And you don't even think about this. I'll tell you my version of this. It's like,
Yeah.
is it sustainably made? Probably in some way. Like, how do I know where was this made? That's a pretty high thing now for most. I think. Is it free
Yeah.
shipping? How quickly am I going to get it?
Yeah.
Compatibility potentially with other things. So there's like all these different factors, and it depends on what you're shopping for. I want to call them like product feature icons, right? Often, like they're like shown around
Proof points.
proof points.
Yeah.
Okay, I like that. But there's all these plugins on Shopify that make those icons for you.
Yeah,
And
right.
you can make your own, but a lot of them have hundreds of thousands of icons you can choose from. I mean, like I have a one or two that's basically like for the products that ship free, have a little free shipping button.
Yeah.
We do make a pretty strong effort. Almost all of our packaging is completely recyclable, but I don't have that anywhere, right? But those little things I think are their trust, their honesty, transparency, right? Those are pretty important. I think it's become more and more. I keep reading these marketing reports that say that this is important to consumers. And I'm just not doing that, right? And I think that would help a very small amount of people feel more confident to purchase something.
I would say it'd help a lot of people feel more confident.
Yeah.
We've been trained to trust those little icons,
Yes.
whether they're true or not, and I think they're highly effective.
Yeah. Do you have things like that? I think you describe it in text often, right?
Yeah, we're pretty texty. Yeah, we've got some little proof point icons, I think, on our front page, but not sort of on our product pages as such. Yeah, it's something that's probably going to change with our new Shopify 2.0 theme build that's still in the works.
Yeah. Those are big projects.
They are.
What's your plan? Get back into you're already back, it seems like. I figured there'd be a little more mental fog or physical fog or something, but you seem good to go.
I'm good to go. Monday, Tuesday I was pretty overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Getting back into the week and working out what the hell was going on. But no, feeling good.
Awesome.
I think it was good. It was a really, aside from being sick, it was a really good mental break for me to be out of the business for a week, and really good for the team here to do it all themselves for a week and sort of break some of those little dependencies which just naturally occur.
It'd be nice if we could plan those things, because I have the same experience every time I go away for like even a short vacation where it's a couple days or something. And all these things come up like, oh, why have I been doing this? Why haven't somebody else? It's like, what is going on?
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool, man. Well, I hope your print works out.
Yeah. Thanks. Me too. I haven't checked it in a while. Now I'm anxious.
I expect to see some nice organic slow-mo dust footage.
I know, right? I almost bought a fog machine recently for this exact reason. And I still might. I've thought about maybe getting just dry ice instead. I don't really want a fog machine.
Yes, you do.
I have a couple things that would work pretty well for it now. I didn't even think about the dust spindle thing. Yeah, I need one, I guess.
Yeah, the Prusa needs one in the enclosure, just for those rave lights. Yeah.
Oh, that'd be good. Some little Lego people in there that are like raving.
Yeah.
All right.
Cool, man. Have a good day.
Yeah, see ya.
Catch you soon. Bye. Boop, boop.